Financial freedom is in your hands. With CMC Markets' revolutionary new iPad app, you can trade CFDs wherever you are with the leverage you choose. Download now and trade your way. At CMC Markets, your thought counts.
When I go to the supermarket and go to the biscuit counters, I see wall-to-wall Arnott's and just a few little biscuits on the side. But the supermarkets have actually gone to our guest today. It's Gordon Slater of the Byron Bay Cookie Company, and they actually want his biscuits to go alongside Arnott's. Now, this is a very new development, and it shows us that supermarkets are starting to think that they'll need different sorts of products. It's terribly encouraging to small food producers. And I raised with Gordon, as you'll see, the problem that people have when their products are duplicated. And his products are copied all the time. But his brand and his quality and his research have helped him stay there. Now, of course, the Byron Bay Company exports about 38% of its product. And you know, that's something Arnott's have always wanted to do, but never could do it. Now, I must confess, of course, that Byron Bay is a very small company, but it does show that there is potential in the food business because people want variety. But you do have to be innovative. And of course, our guest is a bit innovative because he's an orthopaedic surgeon and practices that at the same time as being the chairman of the Byron Bay Cookie Company. Gordon, you're an orthopaedic surgeon. How on earth did you get into the cookie business?
Well, it was an interesting thing. We were looking around for businesses for a number of years to buy into, and this one became available, and it was something that I'd heard about over a number of years and tasted the product. And so as soon as I heard about it, I went straight down to the bakehouse, and it went from there. We bought in and bought a small share, and then we started to accumulate shares.
And you now own the whole lot?
Yeah, 3 years ago we managed to get the whole show, and that was by a process that a venture capital company came in and tried to buy the business, and we were able to, through a clause in the contract, to buy it instead. So it was a great, piece of luck in a way in the end.
You know, there's a rule in the food business that when you make a product and develop something, immediately you're copied.
Yes.
What's happened to you? Have people been copying your products?
Yeah, we've been copied by pretty well everyone, and there's every time someone comes out, they always produce their 10 flavours or so, and in that group of flavours will be our top 3 selling products, which will be like the Dotty cookie, triple choc cookie, and also the white chocolate macadamia nut cookie. So they'll copy them, and some of them last for a lot of them go out of business fairly shortly. But the new guys, whenever they come in, they always copy those. The thing that was missed though is that we've developed our flavours over 20 years, so we've perfected them. And it's pretty hard to come up with perfected flavours. It takes a long time, a lot of effort and a lot of passion.
So where have you been selling your cookies? How have you been marketing them?
We sell to around about 9,000 cafes worldwide now. We sell through many independent organisations, so your local cafe owned by typical small business people, entrepreneurs, but we also have corporate clients, so we sell to McDonald's and Qantas and David Jones and a whole lot of bigger businesses like that.
And you've duplicated that not just in Australia but around the world? That's
correct. So overseas we sell to Sainsbury, Harrods, and to a number of larger, when I say larger, like 20 cafe chain businesses over in the UK, and we also sell into the US, so we sell into Whole Foods and a couple of emerging businesses like that.
But you've kept right away from Woolworths and Coles.
Up until this point we have, that's right, we have.
Now why on earth did you do that?
We did it for a number of reasons, but it was becoming, and it's great that you mentioned this thing about being copied. So in Coles and Woolworths we see that a lot of our flavours are emerging and being copied. I'm
not surprised.
Yeah, and then we got approached and we toyed with the idea for about 10 years.
Who approached you?
People from Coles initially approached us and said, we'd like to get your product in, and And we were kind of against it, but we had a strategy that we'd develop a new brand at some stage, which was the Bar and Bakehouse brand, and we'd modify the product. So it's an individual product styled for Coles to go into the home pantry.
And Woolworths too?
Well, I'm not talking about that. I think
Okay.
that's a secret at this stage.
All right. Now that means that you're going to go right up against Arnott's. They've been pretty sleepy at this stage because they've let you creep up. How will you go against them, do you think?
Well, I think Arnott's is a great company. I mean, they've been a great Australian company, and I like some of their products. I don't see it as like being directly against them. I think that what I would like to see is that we're developing a different category. So in Coles, we're a single serve item rather than being in where they're playing, which is, you know, in multiple unit serves. So we'll probably be different, I hope.
What about when Mr. Coles or Mr. Woolworths comes along to you and says, Mr. Slater, I want you to reduce your price dramatically, as they do all the time. How are you going to handle that?
I don't know. I think that'll be a tough one, won't it? But, well, there's a certain price that we can reduce it to, but we're not really in the discount food business. We're in the upper end in the kind of luxury food item category, and so we won't reduce the quality of our products. So there'd be a certain price point that we wouldn't be able to sell to them anymore, I guess, if that was to occur, because that's the number one on our priority and our brand values is the quality of the product.
How do you recruit your staff to run the bar? And all your baking is at Bar and Bay?
We've got 3 facilities, so we've got one at Byron Bay, we've got one on the Gold Coast, and we've got one in Manchester.
Okay. And so how do you recruit your staff to manage these places?
With great difficulty. I think like everybody, I think HR is the most difficult thing. So I get involved directly in like every senior employee hire I'll be involved with. But we tend to involve HR companies to help us. We outsource that and shortlist. But with people like in the bakehouse, we do that like up at
You want to know, they've got a bit of taste the product, haven't they?
They do, yes. So they have to, the key thing is to think about like the wine industry, where you've got to have a good palate. And then once they get in, we develop the palate even more. So we're always tasting food, always tasting new products that we might want to develop, new flavours, and also, of course, always checking the products that we have, that they meet the standard of flavour that we want.
Have you given away your orthopaedic surgery?
I haven't. I still work. No, I haven't. I tend to like working, I guess. So spent a lot of years, 15, 20 years developing a skill, and I'm not ready to give that away yet. So I'm working in Edgecliff in Sydney, and I also have a little practice in Albury.
So how do you manage the business? How is the business? I know you're the chairman, but how do you arrange the management of the business? Where's the CEO, and how does it all work?
Right. So we've made a big change in the last couple of years when we started in the United States. We sent our then general manager here over there to start up that market because he was American, he was the obvious choice for that. And then he got promoted to managing director. And that made a lot of sense for us because to run London from Australia was really hard. It's such a long flight, and by the time you get there you're quite tired, and then you stay there for a week and come back. So we now it made perfect sense for him to run the UK and European operation, and he comes out to Australia 3 times a year for board meetings and on the phone on other times.
And what percentage of your turnover is now exported?
37% is export.
Okay, so that's something Arnott's have never been able to crack. Some Tim Tams are exported, but they've never been able to become a major exporter of biscuits. What did you do they didn't do?
Well, I think that we started off by developing unique flavours and taking flavours that we want over to Europe. And I think we just hit a chord with the palate in the UK and also now in the US. I think the product range that we have has just really been very popular globally with people whenever they try it.
Do you market online?
Yes, we do. We have an online sales. We just ratcheted up our sales. We're up 100% last month on this month and year on year. Just by revamping our website strategy just recently. And I think that's going to be an important strategy for us going forward because we have 20,000 hits on our website per month.
Really? Really? So that, but at this stage, is it the percentage substantial?
No, it's not it's an emerging thing, but still it's an important thing, and when you see the growth, you can see it won't take very long for those exponential sales growth to become a very important part of the business.
If your business starts to get bigger, as a result of the supermarkets, as a result of the export effort. Have you got the money to fund it?
We do. We're self-funding, so we concentrate on our net, and we're very, I guess, Scrooge-ish or Scottish in our way that we look at every dollar and every piece of capital we put in. We have to get a very quick return on investment. So we don't have flights of fancy and waste money. So we have to be very careful with our capital allocation.
Have you thought of floating?
Well, you sort of think about it. It's to many companies, it's the panacea to growth. And I wouldn't say that we would never do it, but I think probably on our radar would be maybe to take on a capital partner maybe over the next few years if we decide to continue on our merger and acquisition strategy.
It sounds like the banks have been fairly helpful to you along the way. Perhaps they like the taste of the biscuits.
Well, look, to their credit, we've had National Australia Bank as our major bank over the last, I guess 15 years, and they've been very good to us. But like all banks now, with small business, things are tighter than what they used to be. So we've got to get a lot more creative, I think, about how we look at our capital going forward, particularly as with merger and acquisition. Now we're starting to look at bigger targets potentially, which might be, a bank funding option might be the way to go with those.
Do you own your own real estate, or do you lease it?
We own our own real estate, so yeah, and I kind of like that, because I think if you're going to bet on someone, the best person to bet on is yourself. So I've got a tenant that I know they're going to pay their rent every month. 5
years hence, where do you want to be?
We'd like to be a global niche player in the food industry, and I think we'd like to also have a number of other top line brands. So we were almost like a Louis Vuitton of food. That's what I'd like to say.
Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you very much.